In part one, we looked at invoicing and we talked about the different types of dating methods, and I'll just sort of recap this as we go. And we talked about an invoice, I'm sort of picking up from there, that was dated October the 23rd, 2010. So if you have not seen part one of this, make sure you go back, stop this one now, go back and look at invoicing part one, where we discussed this. So we had an invoice dated October the 23rd, 2010. The terms were 2/10, comma, 1.5/20, comma, n/45. And we discussed that this meant that you would get a 2% discount for the first 10 days. The dating method was called ordinary dating because there was nothing behind these terms. There could have been EOM for end of month dating, and there could have been ROG for receipt of goods dating. That again is discussed in the first video of this series. We have nothing there, so this is the ordinary dating method, and that means the only important date on here is the date on the invoice, which is October the 23rd, 2010. So we get a 2% discount for the first 10 days. That will take us from October the 23rd up until November the 2nd. We use the date function of the calculator to determine this. Again, that was discussed on the previous video. Then we get a 1.5% discount for the next 10 days, bringing us up to day 20. So this will take us from November the 3rd to November the 12th. And that entire period, all the way from October the 23rd to November the 12th, is called the discount period because we're receiving some sort of discount there. Why are we receiving the discount? To encourage early payment. Following that, we still are giving credit. We're still letting them wait all the way up until the 45th day, which is December the 7th. And anything in there is still a credit period, but they will just get dollar for dollar credit. So any monies paid from November the 13th to December 7th will just get a dollar for dollar credit. The total amount of the invoice in this case was $27.50. I'm just using that figure because that's the one we used on the previous one. I'd like you to be using your calculator. Maybe you want to enter $27.50 into your calculator so that you have that figure to go along with. We're going to look at several things on this tape. We're going to start by discussing what happens if we want to pay the invoice in full. That's sort of the easiest concept. But it's not the most common way that it's done. But let's start there anyway. So if we want to pay this in full, and let's say we want to pay it on November the 2nd, 2010, now we have to look first of all up here and we say November the 2nd, does it fall into the discount period? The answer is yes. What is the discount? The discount is 2%. So if they're paying on November the 2nd, we know the discount will be 2%. So we might as well write that down. Discount is 0.02. Now there are two things you really need to remember. The amount that anybody is paying in cash or any other method by check or debit or transfer or whatever, that is the net amount. The amount that appears on the invoice, the $27.50, or any amount that gets credited on the invoice are all list amounts. Now why am I saying that? Because we're going to be using the formula. The mainstay formula here is net is list 1 minus the discount. And we want to know how much we have to pay in order to clear this. Well, if we're trying to clear it, we're trying to clear the whole debt, the $27.50. So we want the list amount to be $27.50 so that the balance would become 0 and then the debt would be paid. So we want the list to be $27.50. Remember, the list is the amount that appears on the invoice, and all we're trying to do now is solve for n, the net amount, the amount that we have to pay. Now, we certainly expect it to be less than $27.50, or that would not encourage us to pay early. So let's see what happens here. We simply take the $27.50. 1 minus a 2% discount is 0.98. So 0.98. So all we're doing here is taking $27.50 and multiplying it by 0.98. So do that on your calculator. And they would have to submit, at that point in time, $26.95. So they're sending in $26.95 and we're crediting them with $27.50. So that's a savings of $55. So that would encourage them to pay early. So if they want to pay it all at once, within the first discount period, anytime between October 23rd and November the 2nd, they would only have to send in $26.95. We would credit them with $27.50, and that would completely clear the debt. All right, now we want to look at the next scenario, which is any payment made to pay the invoice in full between November the 3rd and November the 12th. So let's take November the 12th, for example. Now we know anywhere from November the 3rd to November the 12th, the discount will be 1.5%, 0.015. We're trying to clear the entire invoice. That's a list amount. So the list amount is $27.50. And we are trying to find out how much we have to pay, which is the net amount. So net is list, 1 minus discount. So we have $27.50 times 0.985. So do this on your calculator. 27.50 times 0.985 is 2708.75. So they would have to submit or remit 2708.75, and we would credit them with the full amount of 27.50. All right, let's think about the third and last scenario for this part of the little clip here. And that's, what about any payments made between November the 13th and December the 7th? Well, for this, you just need to know your theory. If they're making a payment between November the 13th and December the 7th, we said they're not in a discount period. They are still getting credit, but it's just dollar for dollar credit. So any payments made between November the 13th and December the 7th, if you're trying to clear a debt of $27.50, you would have to send in $27.50. Now this does not violate any math at all. We could write this down and of course it would still follow. So if we're trying to make the payment in that, let's say December 7th or anywhere in there, so we'll do December 7th. But this would apply for anywhere between November 13th and December 7th. The discount would be 0. We're still trying to clear a list of $27.50. Net is list 1 minus discount, which is $27.50, times 1 minus 0 is 1. So $27.50 times 1 is $27.50. So you would have to remit the full amount in order to clear the debt if you wait until the discount periods are over and you're still in a credit period. That ends this part of the video. And we will have a part 3, which will deal with partial payments.